period, and that is under a claim of right. All right, we did a couple questions I want to go over. So let's look at here what I would do. Okay, look at this first question which we asked last week, right? In this question, we have a 100-acre lot. A only enters the back 40. He did not enter the front 60. Why is it significant? Who am I up to next? Who's last? Where did I finish last class? You went around. All right, Brian. Okay, fine. That's fine. Hassan, then I'll go to Jason. Okay, fine. So oh no, you didn't get that text like 5 minutes ago. All right, he talked before. Okay, fine. Jason, what's the significance of the fact in this question that entry was only done on the back 40, not the front 60? Why is that fact significant? What about the other 60? The other 60 not entry. So it's not able to show that he's moving that. And he claimed adverse possession for the other 60 acres. Okay, so what's the answer here? A, B, C, or D? It's on your screen also if you want to open today's class notes. That's why I do it that way. Go to class number 2. Everyone bring it up. Go on if you don't have it open. I understand it's hard to read. These screens are not the best either. The ones on the side are dreadful. B. Why is it B? Correct. The first element of adverse possession is entry. If there's no entry, you don't get adverse possession. At least in this question, it delineated the property 60-40. If you only enter the 40, you don't enter the 60, you get no adverse possession. All right, thank you, Jason. All right, I called in you 2 last time, right? All right, I'll just start back down here. Really, it's just, you're all going to be called in today. It doesn't really matter where I start or finish. All right, so Lance, let's look at question number 2, okay? Okay, can you see it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. With this lot, likewise, A enters lot number 1, but does not enter lot number 2. What's the significance of that fact, Lance?
Significance is that it shows that there was something.
Good. Can he acquire lot 2 by adverse possession? No, we cannot. Good. Thank you very much, Lance. That's correct. So the answer here is? A. Correct. The answer here is A. Good. Raise your hand. Go for it. Yeah. Yes, you can ask a question. Enter a portion of the land, even if you don't enter the other portion of the land. Ooh, so close. So actually, my good friend Chris Krulander I had a chat with last week because he a student in the exact class thing right there asking the same question. You still need entry, right? Even with constructive possession, you still need to enter it at some point. That's the answer. No, it's actually a very good question, right? Because it's not obvious. With constructive possession, you're allowed to sometimes do things with that entirely. But this question was written, you need entry. All right. All right, let's move on. All right, so we did last week the basics of adverse possession, the 4 elements, and we spent a lot of time talking about claim of right. Right? Was it an aggressive hostile trespasser standard? Was it a good faith standard? Was it objective standard? Now I want to talk about an element that didn't really take up much time, which is continuous. Right? In order to satisfy the limitation period for adverse possession, you must have continuous usage. What happens if one person isn't able to satisfy the limitation period by himself? that leads to what's called tacking. Alex, what's tacking?
When more than one person are privy and they combine the time period.
Very good. How does that work?
The person after the first person has to kind of peacefully acquire the right to be there from the first person.
Very,
Be hostile.
very good. All right. So tacking is a way for two or more people to combine their time on the property. Right? It's a way for two more people to combine their time on the property. And I'll show you the Texas tacking statute. It's very short. It's only a few lines. Section 1623. You don't need to know the section numbers, but just for your own reference. It says to satisfy limitations period, peaceable and adverse possession does not need to continue in the same person, but there must be privity of estate between each holder and his successors. All right, so Jacob, let me ask a question. What is privity in this context? What does privity mean?
Some kind of contractual relationship or something that resembles that.
Does that have to be in writing?
It's more helpful for your case if it's in writing. It doesn't necessarily have to be.
Good. Well, then let me ask you a question follow-up. So for Victor, so Jacob says that's be some sort of contractual obligation, something contractual in nature. What exactly must, let's just call them A and B. What must A and B actually say or agree to in order for there to be privity? Just describe in general terms.
B is going to take over for A.
What does that mean, take over? Gotta be a little more specific.
B will take possession of the property from A.
To what end?
To what end that A no longer is on the property anymore.
And then what? Why is B entering the property? What's B's goal?
B's goal is to enter the property and take A's period of adverse possession as counting towards his period of adverse possession, so that way he can take control earlier.
Well, think of the cases we have today, right? In Howard v. Kunto, there was tacking, right? In that case, did any of them know that they were making an agreement to adversely possess Blackacre? So, for privity to exist, do they have to have an agreement to adversely possess the property? Right. So here's how it sort of works. It's kind of weird, right? You would think that privity means that they're in agreement that they're going to jointly adversely possess Blackacre. But it's actually a little bit more loose. All it means is they have an agreement that A will acquire Blackacre from B. They don't have to have the intent to acquire it through adverse possession. Sort of almost counterintuitive. You might think, like in the examples of the book, it's always, oh yeah, we agreed that we're gonna 5 year here, 5 year there, we're gonna get together 10 years and jointly adversely possess. That's not necessary. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at a question before Jason in a few moments. This is question number 3. Let me turn the thing on. Where is that thing? All right, let me start reading it. I don't see my. Is the attendance running? Is it all running? For whatever reason. I cannot. Do not end. I don't know where my clicker thing is, unfortunately. The thing vanished. All right, well, it's with the old-fashioned way. All right, so let me read the question, and then you'll just have to write the answer down in your notes, and we'll call on you. So in 2000, A enters adversely upon Blackacre, owned by O. In 2007, B tells A, get out of here, I'm taking over. A, feeling threatened, leaves, and B enters into possession. B remains on Blackacre through 2010. This jurisdiction requires a 10-year limitation period. In 2010, who owns Blackacre? All right, so take some time, write an answer for yourselves, and I'll call on Jason in a moment. All right. All right, Jason, what's your answer here?
C.
Okay, why'd you put C?
A adversely possessed land until 2007 for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then B took over and forced A out, so there's no privity between them. And B had possession for a period of 3 years. So neither of them met the required statute of limitation period.
Why is there no privity here?
There was not an agreement.
To the contrary, what was there?
They used force.
A threat. Yeah. I don't know if it was actual force. It was definitely a threat. That's right. The answer here is C. You know what I'll just do? I'm going to close iClicker and just sign into attendance one more time, because if I close, if I what do you call it? If I end the session, I can just open up again. So just I'll ask you. I'm sorry to waste your time. To just sign into the attendance one more time, and then we'll just do polls for the here out. Okay. So sorry to bother you with the attendance twice. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Jason. That's correct. All right. Everyone okay with that question? In order to have privity, there must be some sort of agreement. If there's evidence of threats, hostility, duress, any defense you can think of, there's not going to be privity. All right. Sure. Next question will be for Craig. This one, let me just turn multiple choice on. Okay. So question four says, question four says, in 1994, A enters adversely upon Blackacre owned by O. In 1995, O dies, leaving a will that devises Blackacre to B for life. Remainder to C. In 2010, B dies without ever having entered upon Blackacre. Who owns Blackacre? A, B, C, or O? All right. Take another 20 seconds. You give an answer.
You put on iClicker?
It should be on. Do you all see it? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I will call on you in a moment, but just put your answer and so I can see everyone else. All right. Everyone seeing it on their app?
So it's cut off.
It doesn't matter. Just look at the screen. Yeah. Don't worry about whatever's on the screen. That's actually not very important. All right. I'm going to stop it. We have enough time. All right. Craig, what's your answer, sir?
Well, I'm looking for the statute of limitations in there. I don't see it.
Assume 10 years.
A.
Why do you say A?
1994, adversely upon Blackacre owned by O. O died in 95, leaving a will that divided Blackacre B for life. And C, but 2010 B died without ever entering on Blackacre.
You just read the question.
Okay, so I'm almost the analysis.
Okay, so why?
A entered adversely.
Okay. What's the effect of the death of O? Does that affect the question at all? Does that restart the clock?
I don't think so.
Why not? Doesn't B get a full 10 years to try and kick out the squatter?
I don't know.
Well, how does tacking work? Does tacking apply here?
Well, I guess because they're infringing with each other. Are they infringing with each other?
Does tacking apply to the squatter,
No, it
or
applies it applies to the squatter.
does it apply to the owner of the property?
No.
Good. All right. Zach, what'd you put here?
I said A.
Okay, tell me why.
That would be because regardless of whether or not the statute of limitation clock restarts, between O's death and B's death is 15 years on which A is still on the property. So you would have gotten it from B even if it reset the clock.
But what if the answer was in 2005? Because you can't lose it, right? If A acquires it in 2005, it doesn't matter what happens afterwards.
Right.
Does that affect your answer? It changed the year to 2005.
That's still 10 years after O's death while it's been in B's possession. So delay.
Okay, Chi, what do you think?
Say that question again.
What's your answer here?
Also A.
Why do you put A?
Because I think A entered against O.
But A never against B, did he?
Take it
But A never entered against B, did he?
Yeah.
So when do you start the clock?
with O.
You reset the clock? Okay, that's correct. All you guys are right. The answer here is A, which, oh, okay, 7%, not great. Okay, but about a quarter of you got this one incorrect. So let's just walk through one step at a time, right? Some of you put O. O's dead. So that's, I don't do that one, but let's, dead people can't own property. So we'll chalk down that to as a tech glitch. Okay. So a couple of you did put C, right? This is sort of a weird question, right? A enters when O's in charge, but O dies the next year. The clock does not stop. The statute limitation clock does not stop, either here or our next topic on disabilities. The clock never stops. So the 10-year clock starts in 1994 and ends in 2004. No questions asked. So even though B comes in with a life estate, he has about 9 years to evict A. He never does. Now, what about C? Does C have any interest here? Casey? Oh,
You could then say, like, I want to, it should be the good thing, get paid off.
perfect answer. Excellent. Very good. Did you learn this last year from Coolander?
Yeah.
Well, it's a good answer anyway. So what about C? Eventually, I'll teach something new. Eventually, it'll happen eventually. I don't know when it'll happen. Maybe on Thursday. That's a very good answer. C is the remainderman, right? C's got a remainder hanging out. If he knows that B is sleeping on his rights, that B is not ejecting the squatter, C can go to court and seek an injunction to force the court to eject, to force B to eject the squatter. Now, Casey, why can't C go against A directly? Yeah, is there any relationship between C and A? They're not in, that's it. They're not in privity. Very good, thank you. Right? C cannot sue A. The only relationship that exists is between C and B. Okay? C and B have a relationship because he's the future interest. Now, the analogy due to waste is exactly right. And I think if Coolander mentioned that, he was right on point. If you have a remainder and the person in the life estate is destroying the property, is engaging in what's called waste, you can go to court to seek an injunction to stop the waste, to stop the destruction of the property. Because look, the guy with the life estate, he's just there for a few years, whatever, right? He's going to die. But you got the fee simple remainder. That's the good stuff. You can have it for the rest of eternity. And you don't want the property to be destroyed. Even worse than waste is adverse possession. Because if you let it go away to adverse possession, A's got his fee simple, right? A squatter will obtain fee simple by squatting for a decade. All right. I will teach you something new eventually. It's going to happen. All right. But thank you for that, Casey. Everyone okay? Craig, Zach, Chi, you good with this? Good job. All right. All right. So tacking is not hard. There often, I think, are tricky issues of whether there's privity or not. But it's actually one of the easier topics for today. Okay. Good. Dominic, facts, please, in Howard v. Kunto.
So, Nicole was residing in a house that was occupied by Kunto. That the deed that he had was erroneous in that he described it as he was occupied.
How did this conflict arise? I mean, I think you sort of jumped to like stage 5, the answer. Let's start with more basic fact, right? How did this conflict arise? What happened here?
Issue or how did this?
How did this dispute arise? What led to this dispute? What happened here? Okay, be more specific. What was the survey? Was it
They were surveying the land
okay? And what did the survey find?
that there was error.
So before there was a survey finding an error, was there another survey? No, Aaron.
So I believe it was.
But I can see on his screens looking at the notes I have, which is good. So yeah.
Seemed so harsh last week, and then now
It-
you give us everything we needed. So.
oh, it'll be hard. Don't worry, my friend.
Okay,
There will be blood, as
All
they say.
Great, great.
I would say that movie is a good movie. No,
Don't drink my milkshake.
I play that. Did Chris play that in his in the oil and gas class?
He did.
I did the same. All right. Good. Nothing new for me.
So I believe it was the Howards were trying to convey some of the interest in their property to the Moyers.
I'm going way back. What was the root cause of why there were so many problems with the property? What was the root cause?
The occupancy of the land didn't match the
Why did the occupancy not match? What was the root cause of this?
an inaccurate survey.
Yes, thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Many decades ago, there was a survey performed that was not accurate. And, surveying is a very difficult art, right? This is not easy. And this case arose in the Hood Canal in Washington. Anyone ever been there? You know where it is? This is very sort of jagged cliffs along this body of water. And there's a lot of erosion. When there's a storm, when there's flooding, the boundaries change. So it's often unclear who owns what. A survey was done incorrectly. And as a result, everyone was on the wrong lot. Everyone was one lot over from where they should be. Now, your book has a diagram that I don't like, so I made my own. I can do that. Where is it? Why is this not showing? Anyway, this is the diagram from the book, right? Which I find to be sort of hard to piece along. Okay, I prefer these diagrams, which I think are a little bit easier in the eyes. Okay, so let's go through this one step at a time. Tamara, let me call on you first. So when this situation first arose, who owned what, and where was everything located? It's walk me through this, please. By the way, I made up Blackacre. That's not what they're called in the case, but I'm using that because I think it makes it easier. So if you ever ask Kuhlander, goes, there's no Blackacre in this case. So we'll be friends here. Okay, so it's good, Blackacre. I think so. The diagram in the book just confused the heck out of me every year.
So Blackacre, nobody owned, nobody had a house.
We
on
don't
it.
know. We don't. We have
We don't
no
know
idea.
that,
But correct. Okay, go on.
And then as far as Whiteacre was concerned, Kunto owned it. Or
Yeah.
thought he owned it.
Kunto thought he owned it based on the invalid survey.
Right, and he
Correct.
had a house on it.
Correct.
The Greenacre, which
Right.
Moyer owned or thought he owned, he also had a house on it.
Right.
And then you had the last lot, which did not have a house on it, but you had Howard who did own it.
Right. And we don't know. We don't know why there was not a house on Red Acre. We really don't know. We also don't know. Someone asked me this in the last class. Who owned the lot over here, which I didn't label or anything. We have no idea. But probably someone owned that lot also. We just don't know. All right. So that's the setup here. Then, Tomer, let me ask you a follow-up, please. Howard had an idea, right? Howard, said, I know how to fix this, right? What is Howard's genius idea of how to, fix this dilemma? Oh, but before I ask you that, I'll come to an easier question. What should they have done? If these were normal human beings, right? Good, wholesome people, what would they have done if they were normal people?
They should just had all the deeds given,
Who would have owned what then?
whoever was like Kunto.
Yes, just called even. Whatever land your house is on, that's yours. Kunto will get Whiteacre. Moyer will get Greenacre. Howard can build his own house on Redacre, right? Everyone just owns what they got. Wouldn't that be just easier? Is that Mesa? Is that what they do? No, they do the worst, stupidest thing in the world, right? What does Howard do here? Just it almost like boggles your mind when you think about what this guy tried to do. Well, not that they switch. I know what you're saying, but just spell it out for me. Yes. Okay, so what did Howard get and what did Moyer get?
So Howard basically got Moyer. No, hold on. Yeah, Howard got Moyer's house.
Wait, no.
Hold on.
No.
I just remember they saying they switched, so now I'm confused.
Right, but that's not enough, right? So who got what? Which lot did Moyer want? Let's maybe that make it easier. Which lot did Moyer want?
Moyer wanted.
No. Where was Moyer's house? Look at the screen. Where was Moyer's house?
Moyer's house is in the middle.
Which lot? They're named.
Greenacre.
Okay, Moyer's house on Greenacre. Which lot did Moyer want?
I don't know what he wanted, but he got Reddit.
And that's what I'm asking. No. Which lot does Moyer want? I think I know why you're confused. This is what they actually had, right? Moyer's house on Greenacre, but Howard's deed controlled Greenacre. Kunto's house on Whiteacre, but Moyer's deed controlled Whiteacre. So again, Tamara, if you're Moyer, which deed do you want? You want to stay here. So what's the deal they make, right? Don't say switch. What was the transaction? What was Howard's deal? No, Howard had no house.
You're asking me like these super. I don't know. I can't remember how I just remember that.
These are very simple questions. Don't fight the question. What was the deal that Howard proposed? Mike, I'll come back to you.
Moyer would give Howard the deed to Whiteacre, and Howard would give Moyer the deed to Greenacre.
Yes, that's all I'm looking for. Right? Please don't fight the question. I know what I'm doing here. Okay? I wanted one sentence. They didn't switch because they had different deeds, different properties. All right. Moyer had a house on Greenacre. Okay? He wanted the deed to Greenacre. Who had that deed? Howard. So Howard gave his deed to Moyer. What did Moyer have? Moyer had the deed to Whiteacre, which at Kunto's house. So Howard then had the deed to Kunto's house. Mesa, why would Howard do this? Why would he want the deed to Kunto's property? And he thought he could pull this off, didn't he? Did it work? Why not?
First, came at me with, I've actually possessed this property, for many years, even though it was just for the summer house, but the court still ruled that, could work, because that, giving it as a normal conduct of the owners. And then second, well, then they, brought back and said, well, you've done it, doesn't possess it for long enough, and then back to the property, and comes into play. And they add on here the prior possessors, because there is privity. And we able to also fulfill that element of possession of, continuously.
Okay, good. Thank you. So you see what happened here, right? Howard had this genius idea. It's like, aha, I can get Kunto's house. And all I need to do is get the deed from Moyer. So now Howard's deed was over Kunto's house. I mean, do we think that Howard talked to a lawyer before he did this? Maybe, right? Maybe. And maybe the lawyer told him, under prevailing law, there's no way adverse possession works here. And I'm not sure that would have been bad advice. Now, I think a lawyer would have said, this is insane, don't do this, just work this out amicably. For whatever reason, he thought, aha, I shall get the house of Kunto. All right, so let's walk through our elements one at a time, right? There's entry here, no question. There's a house that's literally built in the property. Okay, Latricia. So little. Do you mind just writing just a first name in the back? Because it's little letters and I can't see both. Just your first name is good.
Oh.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Let me ask a question to you, please. Is the entry, is the house here, Latricia, open and notorious? The second element of adverse possession, is that satisfied here? For Kunto, yeah. That one. Well, why is it open and notorious? Is anyone put on notice that they were squatting? Right, Kunto's house is on Whiteacre. Is Kunto squatting open and notorious? Is the second element satisfied? Why? I'm not talking about continuous. I'm talking about open and notorious. In other words, he was obviously living on the property, right? He was obviously there. But was his action sufficient to put people on notice that he was squatting? Did anyone think he was squatting? Yeah. So I think the second element, I'm not so sure it's satisfied. I can go either way, but it's sort of a weird deal because he's there. Everyone thinks he's the rightful owner, so there's really no indication that he's squatting. AJ?
And that's like you said, they kind of put together. So the open and notorious, I'm not sure if I have the fourth element. Once the other person, I think, right, take over either one, like it doesn't need either one of those.
I think 2 and 4 are very ish tricky. We'll talk about 4 in a minute. I'll get there in a few minutes. So number 3, I think Mesa said correctly. Continuous, right? Even though Kunto had only purchased the property somewhat recently, right? Somewhat recently. his predecessor in interest had been there for decades. And you can tack the different years together. Now keep in mind, they didn't have an agreement to squat on Whiteacre, right? There wasn't some agreement. All they said was, I'm going to buy this from you and you and you. So the privity was simply a contract of sale. They didn't need an agreement to adversely possess it jointly. Unlike the question earlier, it's like, oh, let's agree to squat on Blackacre. But that's enough, right? That an agreement to buy and sell the property in writing, that's not the privity of the estate. Okay. What about the fact that it was a summer home, the only there part of the year? Doesn't matter, right? Because you have to look to how the property is used by people in that community. All right. So then we go, this was AJ's question, to the fourth element, which I think is actually the hardest one of this question, right? The fourth element is, did Kunto have a claim of right? Right? Now, Nick, is Washington a common law standard or a modern standard for the claim of right? What standard does Washington state apply? Which one was Connecticut? Just tell us. What do we call that? I don't whisper it. Don't whisper it. I'm calling it him. What are the three standards for claim of right? Well, there are three we mentioned. What are the three? Okay, the hostile, aggressive trespasser. That's number one. What's number two? No, there are three different states of mind we discussed last week. That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's good faith standard, hostile, aggressive.
Okay, so what do those three mean? Just walking through those three.
Hostile, aggressive, they knowingly are trying to take property.
Okay.
Good faith standard is knowingly.
A mistake. Good.
Objective standard, where here the
Your state of mind's irrelevant. Okay, good. Nick, very good. Thank you so much. All right. What we have here in Washington is the good faith standard. In other words, even with mistaken belief, you can still adversely possess property. So, Brian, let me ask you this question, please. Did Kunto here satisfy the fourth element of adverse possession? Why? Correct. Very good. Thank you. He had no idea he was squatting. No clue. He thought he was on his own land. He was actually about one lot over. But under the good faith standard, that is sufficient. That is enough. All right. Oh, I called on Jason. I'll give him a pass. Talia, let me ask you a question, please. Usually with adverse possession, you have an issue of encroachment, right? Where you think you own Blackacre, but you're like 15 inches over, and you say, oh, it's a mistake of fact. But here, he owned zero of what he thought he owned, right? He owned anything. He thought he had a Whiteacre, really owned Blackacre. Does that matter? Does the court think that fact matters? Tell me why.
I don't think it matters because of the possession was continuous, and they.
Well, you're talking continuous. The claim of right, the fourth element. Does a good faith standard, does it matter whether you actually have a mistake of anything or all of it, or it's all new? Does that matter? No. Correct. With the good faith standard, the court says, it doesn't matter what your mistake is about. It doesn't matter where you think you own too much or too little or this or that. As long as you're on the land, it doesn't matter. If you think about it, with this opinion, the fourth element becomes irrelevant, right? The fourth element of adverse possession does no work. It doesn't matter what was in his mind. It doesn't matter how he approached it. It doesn't even matter what he thought he was squatting on. So long as he was on the land for the requisite period of time, it's enough. Go back, yeah.
But to me, it still fits both good faith and objective. So it says.
Well, but that's right. By saying it's a good faith standard, it doesn't matter what he thinks. It's irrelevant, right? In other words, I think this fourth factor will be satisfied 100% of the time. In other words, I can't think of a case, maybe I'm wrong, maybe you think of one, but under this Washington court standard, where you can lose in the fourth element. You're always going to win it. Now I want to go back to the second element, right? Again, everyone thought they were 50 yards over, 50 feet over, whatever it was. No one thought they were squatting. Isn't this like Manila v. Gorski, the case from New Jersey, where you need a survey to see if you're encroaching? No one knew they were squatting. In my mind, I don't think they have any open and notorious there. I think that element's maybe not satisfied because no one even knew they were squatting. And in order to know they were squatting, they would need a survey. And the law says, or at least the Jersey court said, if you have to get a survey done to see if you're squatting, that's not open and notorious. So there's a little tension between the New Jersey case here and the Washington case. I don't know which one's right. I don't have an answer for you, but just I want you to see that there's a tension there. Yeah. All right. So in the end here, the court rules that Kunto satisfied the elements of adverse possession. And here comes the rub. Kunto got to keep his house on Whiteacre. Giselle, what did Howard get? Zip. He got nothing. What about Moyer? What did Moyer get, Giselle? Did he get to keep what he got, what he bought? So the only loser here was Howard. And it's sort of a rule of courts. It's not like a bright line rule, but it's a good enough rule. The jerk loses. I mean, in most people are nodding their heads. I'm sure you've seen this in your first, couple semesters in law school. If there's a case where someone acts in bad faith, the courts will rule against them. It just happens on a fairly regular basis. All right. So everyone with me on Howard v. Kunto. I think it's a good case. I like this case. Good facts. Oh yes, she got.
Does he ultimately claim Blackacre as well?
Kunto's got both. So Kunto walks away owning Blackacre and Whiteacre. So he made up pretty good. But it was a risk though, right? Because I don't think the open notorious standard's been satisfied. In my mind, Kunto should have lost. In my mind, every one of the blocks should have lost. But what do I know? Yeah, Aaron.
It seems that, I think you said it at the beginning, that they should have just figured out
Worked it out.
Solve it.
Yeah.
But I mean, Howard was being kind of a jerk, trying to
But I think he had the better legal argument. Yeah.
But did he really though? This seems to use Mesa's terminology, the switcheroo, kind of here you go, we'll just kind of exchange deeds, right? And then now I'll get, now I'll have a claim to Kunto's land.
And his house, not just the land. He wanted the house on the land. That was the important part.
It's not very neighborly.
No, it's the opposite. It was tall fences make good neighbors, whatever that expression is. But again, Howard took a risk. And what I don't know is Howard may have talked to a lawyer. Lawyer said, look, there's no way adverse possession works because it's not open notorious, right? There's no way he has a claim of right because he was mistaken. I mean, it's the court here did a few things that were kind of changing the law. And this is a good point more generally. You're all litigating, or you'll be litigating in a couple of years, and you presume the law is stable. But when you have a court like the New Jersey Supreme Court or the Washington Supreme Court, they can change stuff up on you. So how are you supposed to advise your clients that, here's what the law requires today when, they may reverse the law on you in a new case? So it's actually very difficult to litigate with these cases that reverse the common law because you think you know the rule until the rule's been changed under your feet. And even more so, what if you have a legal malpractice claim, right? What if some lawyer told Howard, look, you're a jerk, but you're going to win, right? You can give advice. Say, look, you're a jerk, you're being a jerk, but I think the law's on your side. And then the court goes and changes the law. Is that malpractice? Probably not. But it's tricky to give advice. In fact, you might say, look, under current law, you're going to lose. But I think if you litigate this, the court might change their policy, and you might go the other way. So that's all fair advice. And if you're in California, New Jersey, you have to anticipate the court's changing the common law. You can't just guess at it.
Would you consider it an accurate statement that functionally this case creates a whole separate set of elements for adverse possession? Those being continuous entry that the community knows about?
I think they modify the open notorious prong. I think that's how I would approach it.
Okay.
I think they did.
I asked about this particular three-element phrasing specifically because of the adverse elements discussion that you just had over there, with it being essentially a non.
No one knew. Yeah, I think there's no requirement for adversity or hostility. That element's out. So I think you'd probably squeak it in into the second element. I think.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, Chi.
How is it the court determine which standard they pay?
That's why they get paid the small bucks. No, it's the court. I mean, look, the legislature can come back and modify the standard, right? This is not a matter of constitutional law. They can modify the standard. That happened in New York and in Valkenburg where they started changing the standard. But the court gets to decide in the first instance.
Like the trial court? Or
No, the state Supreme Court. State Supreme Court can make the call. That's okay. I will say if you're in modern or common law jurisdiction, I will tell you that. You have to know what that means, though. I say you're in a modern jurisdiction, you have to know what that means. You're the good faith standard. Yeah. And by the way, there are going to be a lot of modern common law rules this semester, so you have to keep track of them.
So I'm trying to understand why you feel Howard has a better legal argument.
I don't know that he
Is
did.
Before like the results, is that looking from the perspective of before the results of the new survey came back? And it was
I
like,
think as
okay,
objective matter, I don't think they satisfy the second element. I don't. But what do I know? I can go either way in the second element, but I do think it's tricky. Fourth element's probably okay. Anything else? All right, let's go on to disability. Right. Now the term disability here doesn't mean that someone has some sort of substantial bodily impairment that affects their functions. Right. That's not what that term means in this context. Right. Where is it? Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to. Shanza, what is a disability in this context?
Is it essentially like a person can acquire it on a piece of land if they have like certain, or if they like qualify?
Say it again. You said a person and they. I'm not sure which pronouns you're talking. Who we're talking about here.
So like a person cannot acquire a piece of land if that person meets like a certain standard, like if they're younger than 18 or mentally uncertain.
Oh, so let's make these easier. There's the squatter and the owner. Okay, now give me your answer with those words.
So the squatter cannot like adversely possess that piece of land
If
they meet
who's they?
that squatter meets.
No. It's not about the squatter having a disability. Who has a disability? So try it again, one more time.
Okay, so is it that the owner cannot acquire that piece of land?
No. We're talking about adverse possession here, right? Who engages in adverse possession?
The squatter
Okay, let's try it again. The squatter cannot
adversely possess
the land if
the owner,
has a,
like meets certain qualifications,
what are those qualifications?
younger than 18, unsound mind.
Okay, we're almost there. Is it that they can't acquire it or they have to wait till the disability concludes?
Um, until the disability.
Okay, start one more time.
Okay, so the squatter cannot adversely possess piece of property
Mhm.
until the owner's disability concludes.
Perfect, perfectly stated. Very good, thank you. Okay, a disability, right? A disability is a way of stopping the clock, right? Or precisely, the clock never starts. When we talk about adverse possession, we're always thinking, okay, where are we in the clock? How many years are we along? If there's a disability in the owner, and I know I was sorry a little bit harsh, but people make a mistake all the time. Disability does not apply to the squatter. Disability only applies to the owner, right? The disability doctrine only applies to the owner. That's why I kept going back with the who, they, who precise. Okay? Disability only applies to the owner. If the owner has a disability, the clock never starts. I'll say it again. If there's a disability, the clock never starts. Okay? So what is a disability? In Texas, there are two. The first one you probably know from contracts. If you're under the age of 18, you lack capacity. Right? Remember this from contracts? The other one, if you are of unsound mind, if you ask me, Josh, what does that mean? I can't tell you. That's a phrase we just don't use anymore. Right? That's not very descriptive of anything, but it's still a phrase in the statute, so you got to know it. I'll just use a very easy example. Someone's in a coma, because there's no doubt in anyone's mind that that's unsound mind, right? I'll make it easier in a coma. But what if you have a mental handicap, you have a low IQ? There are a million and one things. But that's where we have in our statute. All right, so let's read the statute. It says, for the purposes of this chapter, blah, 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 a person is under a legal disability if the person is under the age of 18 or of unsound mind. If you fall into either of those categories, what happens? If a person entitled to bring a personal action is under a disability, when the cause of action accrues, the time of disability is not included in limitation period. Okay, what does that mean? The clock does not start. Let's say it's a 10-year period and a person's in a coma. The clock will not start until he comes out of the coma. Let's say a person's only 8 years old. The clock will not start till he turns 18. So if the continuous prong, you do not even start keeping time until the person turns 18 or until they come out of the coma. Understand? Again, the disability applies to the owner and not the squatter. Zach?
So I'm looking at the Texas statute pulled up here. C says that a person may not act one legal disability do not exist in the limitation period. So if that 8-year-old enters a coma and doesn't come out,
I'm going to get there in a few minutes. I promise. I will answer your question. I know exactly what your question is. I'll get there in a few minutes. I promise. Because as soon as they're asking the same question, the exact same point in the class, I'll get there. I promise. Okay, so paragraph C. I got the look. I love lawsuits because you're all predictable, right? But in a smart way. The mind connects point A and point B in a very consistent way. So when I give you some facts, like, you jump at the next point, right? If you actually think of my questions, all of my questions are leading, right? It's like a deposition. It's very, very hostile, in fact. But I'm leading to a specific point. Look, I'm leading you to a specific point that I want to get you to. Sometimes it takes more questions to get there, but we get there eventually. So paragraph C. A person may not tack one legal disability to another to extend limitation period, right? You only get one bite at the apple, right? You get one disability. So let's just say, To give an easy example, a person's under the age of 18, and their 18th birthday, they get into a car accident and go into a coma. Doesn't matter. The clock starts ticking when they turn 18. Or say another one, right? A person is in a coma, and they come out of the coma. You only get one disability. All right. You cannot tack. There's a variant I don't want to get to quite yet, which is why I dodged this question. We'll get to it a little bit later. It's actually one of my questions that's later in the session. And paragraph D, it says a disability that arises after limitation period starts does not suspend the timing of running the period. What does that mean? The clock never stops. Once the clock starts tick, 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 it keeps going. So, you start squatting, someone who's of sound minds, of legal age, that's great. The next day he goes into a coma, the 10-year clock keeps ticking. You don't stop the clock. Once the clock starts. So all you're concerned about is the disability in existence at the time of the entry. If the disability exists at the time of the entry, you stop the clock. If the disability accrues later, you don't stop the clock. Okay, Aaron, your hand's up. Did I answer your question?
I think that was it. I was
Yep.
just trying to say that the disability had to exist at the time that.
Correct. Correct. Let's do some questions on this one. We did number 4, right? We did this one? Yeah, we just, okay, so, right, number. So 5A and 5B, and just to eliminate any doubt, this material applies to 5A and 5B. Someone argued in the last class the question wasn't clear, so I want to make that abundantly clear. And, I'm sorry. This is not a multiple choice. Ignore that. I'm looking for a number. Looking for a year. Okay. O is the owner of Blackacre in 1995. And A enters adversely on May 1st, 1995. O is insane in 1985. O dies intestate and insane in 2008. So question 5A. O's heir H is under no disability in 2008. What year will the 10-year statute conclude? I'm looking for a number, please. And who am I up to? I think I did Sean's. Okay, so AJ will leave you in a moment. Oh, Emma in the corner. Oh, almost forgot. Oh man, I would never put you in the corner. I'm sorry. Let's review in about 15 more seconds. AJ, you'll be next. Yeah, one semester there were like a couple students here, and I consistently just skipped this row. I don't know why. And you're doing favoritism. I was like, a lot going on. It's hard to keep track. All right, Emma, what is your answer, my friend? Okay, why do you want to say 2018? Uh-huh. When does the clock start? Does it start at any point before 2008?
No, because he's insane.
Correct.
Yeah, in 1995.
Correct. So your answer is 2018? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Casey, you want it? Okay, go ahead.
Don't know exactly what it was stating to me and saying that it was after.
Okay. It's for the entire year of 1995. He's insane.
Okay. I put 2005 because I was assuming you put the year.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so then he went insane. So that's why in that order, it led me to believe.
Okay, but let's say he was insane on January 1st of that year. You know what? Let me. All right, you guys. All right. Okay, so you know what? That's why I love law students. You guys are always okay. So O was declared insane Oops. In 1994. Better? Better question? All right, so what's your answer now, Casey? 2018.
2018.
Okay, that was the answer I was looking for. Which, okay, most of you got this one, right? For people with 2005, were they with Casey in that on the? Okay, someone put 18. That's not a. Oh, that's a. I don't know what that is. Okay, that's a year. All right, but I think most of you got this one correct. Okay, let's try for AJ. Question 5B. This is, by the way, is why I don't give multiple choice questions on the exam. I never give an multiple choice exam because I hate them. Because no matter how good you make the question, you have a smart person like that come along and say, "Oh, well, this." So mine is essay, and if you put on my exam, it wasn't clear when he turned insane. I'd be like, okay, they know what they're talking about. They actually thought through it. So just don't assume a fact, right? If you want to say that, given the facts here, that it doesn't say when he became insane, that's fair game. Okay, let's try 5B. All right. O's heir H is 6 years old in 2008. What year will the 10-year statute conclude? I'm looking for a year. Okay. AJ, what's your answer here, my friend? Same answer as before. How can we put the same answer as before? Nothing changed?
O's disability is being affected.
Does it matter that the kid's only was it 6 years old? Can you tack the disabilities together? No, you cannot. The answer is the same. 2018 doesn't change. The reason why, you cannot tack disabilities together. Ooh. So a number of you put 2030. I know exactly why I did this. You said, aha, you add 12 years after 2008, that's 2020, and then a decade afterwards is 2030. We don't care about H. H is a minor, doesn't matter. The clock never stops. Once the clock starts, continues. Here, as soon as 2008 rolls along, the clock starts ticking. It doesn't stop to wait for the minor. Zach.
I'm H's father. What do I do about this situation?
Right. No, that's actually a good point, right? Because the squatting period began in 1995. And for that entire period, O is insane. Okay. Now, O dies in 2008, and the heir is H. H is a minor. The guardian or the parent of the heir can go to court on behalf of his son or daughter and seek to eject the squatter. Right? Indeed, in reality, the insane O should have a guardian appointed by the court to manage his affairs. So even though there's a legal disability, the court probably should take care of this and eject the squatter. Craig? Sorry, Kurt. Sorry, you're right in line.
In the
Yeah.
absence of what you just said, like a guardian ad litem or somebody appointed to the person that's insane, if the person that's insane is awarded the state, could the father of that child then argue, well, he can't adversely.
Whoa, so be
affect-
careful. Until O is dead, he's not an heir yet. Because in theory, O could rewrite his will.
Right, but if he's in disability, he's insane, let's say, I'm just saying he's awarded the state.
Correct.
Okay, so couldn't the father,
But-
that's asking what can get out of H
Are you saying before or after O's death?
before, during the period.
But before O dies, there's no heir. Right? Even though H is listed in the will,
Okay,
that can be changed, right? Again, living people are not heirs.
so
So
when he dies.
as soon as he dies, the will's
there's
probated.
Something called a state recovery, correct?
Tell me what you're talking about.
So a state recovery means that someone dies that's awarded the state,
and has some sort of benefit, whether it's trust.
Oh, I see. The state can take their cut.
The state that took care of that person in the.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Could come after the actual physical asset.
I think that's right. Far beyond the scope of my question. I think that's right.
So my only interjection was, could dad basically do the next section of this chapter and say, you can't squat against the government. The government was this person's, technically.
I see what you're saying. It's I don't know that the government would actually take the property entirely versus taking some cash resources, right? Because they would have, if what you're saying is accurate, the government would have to basically seize the property and put up for sale, which would defeat any continuous adverse possession. Because for them to sell the property, they have to kick off the squatter.
I'll say that scenario.
I wouldn't. You have limited words, so I wouldn't. Yeah, it's Talia.
Clarify something more if I can make sure that it's
Sure.
right. So in the book, I don't know why I read this little section, and so it like kind of threw me off that it's 10 years from the time the coverage has been approved.
I know. The one in the
Let's
book is
ignore
annoying.
it.
It's not ignore it, but I give you the Texas statute because it's a heck of a lot easier.
So it's just 10 years.
10
from
years.
when-
No, I know the one in the book, and the reason why I don't use that because it's really confusing. Because it basically says there's another limitation period for disability, which is I'm not using it.
So just like 10 years from when.
That's the same period. That's what we do in Texas. That's how I want to do it here. Yes, Flocky. Yes. I will tell you the limitation for you. You don't have to guess. You're welcome. Let's do question 6. All right. All right. O is the owner in 1985, and A enters adversely on May 1st, 1995. O has no disability in 1995. O dies intestate in 2004. O's heir H is 2 years old in 2004. What year will the 10-year statute conclude? And this will be for Kirk. Okay, next. No. Just you have a chance to answer. That's okay. Like another 30 seconds or so. Okay. Kirk, what's your answer here?
Here I'm gonna go with 2030.
2030. Okay, why do you say 2030?
I'm gonna say sensor with no disability. 2004, 2005. Go out to the year 2020. Go from that direction in 10 years after his disability.
Okay, so what year was their entry? Was there a disability at that time? Sorry, does the clock ever stop? What's your answer? Why'd you change your answer?
Because I realized that, again, like you said, it matters when, who has if there's a disability at the time.
Does the clock ever stop?
No.
No. Put this in big bold letters. I repeated it a number of times. Clock never stops. The clock never stops. If there's no disability when the entry occurs, tick, 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 right? Go back to the statutes right there. Black and white. Okay. A disability that arises after limitation period starts does not suspend, does not stop limitation period. There was no disability at the outset. The disability only arose after the 2-year-old came into the scene. You do not tax. The answer here is Kirk. 2005 is the right answer. Okay, so one person put 2030. What was 2020, 21? That okay. Oops, let me do that. I'm sorry. All right, 2005 is the right answer.
This seems like it tends to yield unjust results. Is there any way to cut the severity of this that the courts?
Unjust results for whom? The squatter or for the insane person?
The insane person, the heir.
Ah, yeah, it is unfair. I think the reason why is that if you are a potential heir of a person who's insane, you then have an obligation to check out the interests of the present day.
Okay.
I think this is similar to the son question we asked a few minutes ago, that if your son is the current resident holder and you see there's a squatter there, the guardian or someone else has the obligation to kick them out. I think that addresses some of the injustice, but perhaps not all of it. Kirk?
Probate never stops the clock.
No? No, it does not?
So all the creditors could show up and throw everything at this state.
Yeah. Yep. Clock. But someone's got to eject them. I mean, at some point, someone has to just call the cops that eject. Go to court, eject. AJ. How much of what? Right. I mean, to be precise, if a person's insane, perhaps they drafted a will before they became insane, which will be binding because generally a person who lacks capacity can't change their will. There might be a guardian appointed. The guardian's appointed. It's a matter of public record. If they are insane with no will, you can read the intestacy statute and figure out who, where if you're the first in line, blood relative, it's yours. Brian?
Does the clock, not being able to be stopped have anything to do with, the R word that we learned in talking about?
You gotta help me out here.
Say it.
What word?
Goes against perpetuity.
Nothing with against perpetuity. Absolutely nothing. That's about life and being plus 21 years. We're not even close to that. The R word? Oh my god. I use the F word for fairness because I hate that word. Don't I hate that fairness doesn't mean anything. My daughter's like, it's not fair, Daddy. All right, nothing's fair for the kids. All right. Hey, yeah, so Craig, go ahead. Ask your classmate. I don't know. I don't want to dwell on it. I have no idea. 2020 was they failed to add 10 years. I get that. 2021 is arithmetic error. I don't know. I don't want to call whoever got that. I don't see in front of me who put that. So, but look, man, when you grade exams, you stop asking that question. How did they come up with this? Like, all right, let's move on. You got 15 minutes left. O'Keefe v. Snyder. Lockie, facts, please.
Over 2 cases. Defendants damaged or alleged.
Well, let's just take a step back. When did these paintings vanish? When did they disappear?
Sometime we're still thinking about.
Right, it's just roughly what decade we're talking about. Well, the case arose in the 70s, but I'm asking when did the pictures go missing?
1946.
1940s, right? Okay. So these pictures disappear from a gallery in the 1940s. Did you call the cops? Did you alert anyone? Did you tell anybody that the paintings might be missing? Take any exercise of diligence to find them? No. Okay. So then, Casey, what happens? 30 years later in the 70s. Okay. Well, where did Frank get it from? Hold on, let's take a step back.
Frank said that nothing is.
Is that even possible? It could be. That's possible. Yeah. Ah. You don't believe her, do you? No, you think she's lying?
I don't think, yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's fair. You're allowed to think that.
So then, she doesn't
this is what Feldman, she wants the paintings back.
Right.
So, from that part, they argue back and forth, and ultimately they get into something more called like discovery.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. We'll get there in a few minutes. All right, but thank you for that, Casey. Very good. All right. So the facts here again are very much in dispute. Right. By the way, the trial court granted summary judgment. Right. Can you grant summary judgment when facts are in dispute? No. The entire point of summary judgment is that there are no material facts are in dispute. Right. 56. You did this a million times. So the trial court screwed up. Right. No way this is summary judgment. You need a trial. Right. Just to figure out what the heck happened. You need to find or fact, make findings. So that was error number one. But from what we know is the pictures are missing sometime in the 1940s. We don't know exactly when. She didn't make a report on it until the 70s when she was very popular and her paintings were worth some money. Okay, so people are nodding their heads like, right? The gallery was hanging up in this guy Frank's apartment for decades, and eventually Frank's son sold it off to Snyder, put them on display. So this is New Jersey. And what do we expect in New Jersey? New Jersey is where the common law goes to die, right? I told you we're 2 for 2 now. Any New Jersey case to reverse I'm not lying to you, will reverse the common law rule. Let's just go through our elements one at a time, right? Entry, sure. Someone took the paintings. They were in possession. There's entry. Now, go back down to Lance. Open and notorious. We know this painting was hanging in the guy's living room for 30 years. Does that satisfy the open and notorious requirement?
No, that doesn't, but he did put it on loan to a couple different.
Correct. Chattel, that is personal property, is a little bit different than real property, right? When you're in a house on Blackacre, everyone can see it, right? There's no mystery. But when there's a painting that's hanging up in your wall, unless you're a guest of the house, you can't see it. But when you put it on display in a gallery or museum, okay, that's public. Right, so I think probably the second element is probably satisfied, but I'm not sure all the way. Okay, Alex, let's talk about the third element. How many years did Mr. Snyder actually own the painting for? Oh, Frank inherited. I'm asking about Snyder.
Oh, a long time.
No, Frank had a long time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Snyder's the gallery. Not that long.
Not that long. But how does he satisfy the continuity requirement? And they were able to do what? What's the thing called?
Sorry.
Stop whispering. Doesn't help him. Yes, tacking. What's tacking? If you have, we need to have to tack. You said it already.
Privity?
Privity, correct. Good, thank you. There's privity here, so there's tacking. So the New Jersey had a 6-year limit. It's satisfied, right? But Jacob, what does the New Jersey court do to the clock, right? If the clock started ticking in the 1940s, there's no way she wins. That's 30-something years ago, right? So what does the court do to the clock?
They reset it with the discovery rule.
They
Or
reset it.
they change the standard of.
I like your second answer better. Yeah, they change the standard. What is the discovery rule?
So instead of, when the alleged theft or when the property is, taken in by the new owner, it is now when the injured party discovers or under a reasonable standard should have known that the item is missing. That is when it starts to toll.
Okay, good. So it's both an objective and subjective standard, right? It's when you knew, objective, or should have known, subjective, that the painting went missing. Jacob, didn't you know it was missing 40 years ago, 30 years ago? Does she win under any standard?
No.
No. No matter what, she's going to lose. This case drives me nuts. I mean, I like the case. I think the facts are kind of fun, but it drives me bonkers. First off, if there were disputes of material fact, remand for a trial. Don't go changing the common law where there's no actual dispute, right? The opinion should have been 1 paragraph long. There are disputes of fact, remand. Come back to us later. But instead, Jersey, right, they decide to change the standard and create this new discovery rule. But it's even more than that, right, Victor? Usually, who bears the burden of showing that the clock starts?
So,
Usually,
the possessor does.
the squatter, right? Usually, the squatter says, "Look, I entered in 1940, whatever, and that's when the clock started, and it's now 1970, so I win." Who's got the burden now?
The other.
O'Keefe. What does O'Keefe have to show?
If you have to show that he used due diligence in reporting that her thing was stolen.
O'Keefe must show she used due diligence in reporting that her thing was stolen. Did she have due diligence here? No way! She waited 30 years. In no universe does she win on adverse possession. Okay? But the court, perhaps, I don't know, blinded by the light of this great artist, says, let's just keep the case alive for a little bit longer. So in the end, right? Okay, there's entry. I'm not sure if this open notorious was hanging in the guy's living room, but maybe they're right. Continuous, right? Again, it was between tacking 30 something years. But because maybe we don't start the clock till she should have known, maybe we start the clock in the 70s. I don't think that works. And what about the claim of right, Jason? What about the fourth element? What was the state of mind of Frank and Snyder? I'm sorry, what was their state of mind?
Good faith.
And how do you know it's good faith standard in New Jersey?
Because they follow the Connecticut doctrine.
What case did we just study that did that one? Ah,
I'm sorry, Manila v.
yeah, Manila v. Gorski, 1969 case. So by the time you get to the 80s, New Jersey is a good faith standard. So Connecticut rule governs. Very good. So the upshot is the court adopts this new standard, which O'Keefe cannot possibly satisfy, and they remand for a pointless trial. It's a Jersey thing. I don't know. But what do? They settle it. Right? Snyder gets one painting, O'Keefe gets the other one, they sell the third. Again, they could just work this out themselves. You're sensing a pattern here, right? The reason why you have a big, thick red property book is because if people can't work stuff out on their own. Because I'm serious. Look, think about your 1L curriculum. If people work stuff out, you wouldn't have a 1L curriculum. Right? All these cases, people can't work their own business out. All right. So again, discovery rule. New Jersey is not the majority rule. Most states do not follow this. I don't think Texas does. But it's really a rule that makes sense for chattels. It doesn't really make sense for real properties. It's mostly a rule for chattels. Okay. Questions on O'Keefe?
Is there any important kind of conflict with interest there when
I think the idea of a BFP, right, the bona fide purchase for value, matters for privity, right? Because for tacking, Frank bought it in good faith. I'm sorry, Snyder bought it in good faith that Frank was right owner. But I think privity matters there. I do. Yes, Victor.
We're supposed to read adverse possession against the government. Is there anything from that section that we?
Oh, not really. It's really hard to do. I sign it, but I don't ever mention it. Yeah. Someone asked last, it's very hard to squat against the government. In most states, you can't even do it. Just to give an anecdote, Rockefeller Center in Manhattan is where they film all the NBC shows. Every year they shut down the sidewalk for one day a year to defeat any possible adverse possession claims. Because people might walk there every day, they might sleep there. So one day, usually in the summer when it's quiet, on a Sunday they just shut it down and they say you can't walk on the sidewalk. Because like there's this one quasi-governmental private sidewalk by 30 Rock, they shut it down. There you go. I mean, can you imagine if you walked in Times Square every day for a decade? Aha, I own Times Square. It wouldn't work. All right, let me summarize and wrap up, and I'll let you out of here. We did two topics today. We discussed tacking and we discussed disability. For tacking, so long as A and B are in privity, they can combine their time spent for the limitations period. With disabilities, the disability must exist at the time of entry. The clock never starts. But once the clock starts, you cannot stop the clock and you cannot tack one disability onto another disability. All right. I'll put on the short exit poll. This is like your takeaway. Someone put a smiley face for your takeaway. Come on, it just writes. Give me some thought that you actually were here for 90 minutes and you had some thought of, or even a question that you don't understand. But don't give me a winky emoji. I don't know what that even is. Right, I got that in the other class. Yes, ma'am. No. Why? What would you want to write anonymously? I'm wondering. I wonder what. Slip a note under my door. Bag of flaming poop, right? All right, I'm done. Put your answer, and then you can go home, or at least stick around for your next class. Thank you. Anonymous.